Hey, so over the past, I guess 5 or 6 hours, I've been having a lengthy back and forth debate, and this has involved a lot of drama, blocking, unblocking, responding, responding again. It's been a bit of a drama on a forum that I'm on. The forum isn't particularly important, it's just a debate group that I've been on for a number of years. But anyway, the subject matter was this idea of white privilege. And basically, I come from the point of view that I think the term is problematic. And I'm going to lay out why I believe it is problematic in this video. White privilege is a catch all term. Whatever way you look at it, that is the insinuation of this term, white privilege. It insinuates that all white people are privileged. Now, people that I've been debating with, and I've had plenty of support as well, but people I've been debating with have said, oh, but it doesn't refer to all white people. We know that, because the natural follow up is, well, what about white homeless people? What about poor white people? So the natural follow up is to present that. And what their attitude is, oh, well, we know that there's poor white people, but the term is still is referring to institutional white privilege. That would be very well if it was, but the problem is a lot of the people who use this term really do believe that all white people are privileged. For example, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, in my view, is a racist organization. Why? Because they believe that all white people are one and the same. Now, they may have individuals who are open minded and who don't necessarily believe that, but as a movement, that is their mentality. That's why I don't support them. People will say, don't take it so personally. You're not defined by the color of your skin. Well, I agree. I happen to be white. It's not a definition of who I am. But when people try to silence you by insinuating that you're privileged because of something that is beyond your control and it is actually false, of course you're going to take it to heart and you are going to take it personally. Now, my own situation is very far from privileged. I'm not suggesting that I am a victim. I am not suggesting that I'm downtrodden. But my life is very far from ideal at the moment, very far from comfortable. And I don't want to get into very personal details because it'll open up a whole kettle of fish. But basically, I know what it means to have serious financial anxiety. I know what it means to occasionally, quite frankly, wonder where my next meal is coming from. This is my reality. I'm not suggesting it's that case right now, but I've been there and I have not had a privileged life. I've had a much better life than some people. I totally get that. I'm not a refugee fleeing a war zone. I'm not being persecuted under some dictatorship. So please don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that my life is difficult compared to some people. But this concept of white privilege, you would not hear such a generalized term for any other race. People try to contextualize it and say, oh, but traditionally white people have had all the power, etc. Okay, okay. I know my history. I understand full well that in countries like the UK and the United States, that is very true, right? But there are other issues that are equally valid, such as regional variations. In the UK, there's a big difference between the northeast of England and other regions. There is also age gap differences. There is economic gap differences. So the problem with this term white privilege is it is a generalization, whatever way you look at it, and that is inflammatory and polarizing. And in my view, it is being used to stir up animosity towards all white people. And I'm well aware there are white people that use this term, and to them I have little respect because, as far as I'm concerned, they are facilitating a racist concept. It is a racist concept because it is trying to suggest that every single member of a racial demographic is in the same position. And that's just ignorance. That's like saying all black people are X, Y, and Z, all Asian people are X, Y, and Z. If you were to generalize any other race, it wouldn't be acceptable. We know the fact is the majority population is white, and probably it is true that there's a disproportionate number of white people in positions of power and privilege. But by the same token, you're going to find plenty of examples of poor white people, and that is why it's a problem. Because when you say that people say, oh, but it's not really referring to all white people, it doesn't matter because wording is important. So it doesn't matter if you're open minded enough to express that. The point is, when you use this term enough times, it starts to divide society and people really do believe it. So, for example, a struggling young black man will then think that all white people are the enemy because he's been told so many times, oh, white privilege, white privilege, white privilege, the white people are your enemy. It's a term, it's a way of stirring up racial animosity. That's why I despise it. And I've seen these really condescending responses like, well, white people can't see racism, or you can't understand it from your position of privilege. It's like mansplaining and other patronizing terms that identity politics comes out with. People are individuals, and nobody has a right to judge someone else's personal background unless they have some strong indication about it. Public figures it's a bit different because they're in the public eye and that's goes with the territory. But private individuals, if you don't know someone, you've got no right to judge them about their own personal background. You just don't. So if you see someone, they're white and they're male, you think, oh, that guy must be privileged. How the hell do you know? You don't know his life story. You don't know some of the things he's been through. Now, it may be that that white guy hasn't had racial discrimination in the same way. It might be that he hasn't had racial taunts. But for all you know, he could have come from a part of the country that is economically more deprived. He could have a serious disability, he could have serious mental health problems. There are things that aren't always visible. So we have to treat people as individuals. And yes, there can be discussion about discrepancies. I totally agree with that. But it really pisses me off when people throw around this term white privilege. And when you challenge them about it, they really don't have any answer. They'll just get patronizing and condescending and say, oh, but you're coming from a point of privilege because you're white and male. So they're using your demographic against you without knowing your personal background. I have no respect for anyone who throws this at me. And to those who say don't take it personally, well, how can you not take it personally when someone is attacking you for something that is beyond your control? Of course you're going to take that personally. It's not that I allow the fact that I'm white to define me. I don't. But when someone else uses it to attack me, of course I'm going to take issue with that when they don't know me personally. So I hope I've clarified to any doubters why this is a contentious term. It seems obvious to me why it's a contentious term. And I believe that there should be a stigma around saying it. I believe that people who say this casually should be challenged. So, yeah, it's a catch-all term. It's a generalizing term, whatever way you try to gloss it over. And the likes of Black Lives Matter don't care because they do see all white people as the enemy. Doubt me? Consider this. Consider the fact that they even attack their own supporters, white supporters like Bernie Sanders. That's what white liberals don't seem to really understand is that you can support these movements, but then they turn on you. They're not interested in building bridges. They're interested in stirring up divisions in society. That's why I have no time for them. Any movement in history that has polarized the wider public has failed. Period. But unfortunately, we're in an era now where virtue signaling and identity politics is so deeply entrenched in the mainstream traction that if you challenge it, you're instantly seen as condoning bigotry or racism. I do think there is racism out there. I do think that there is anti-black racism and anti-Asian racism, and I will absolutely condemn that. What I will not do is bow my head in shame and say sorry for being white. Fuck that. Simple as that. So thank you for watching, and I hope I've clarified why I think this is such a problematic term. And I really do think that people who keep throwing it around, especially public figures who do that, need to be challenged.